Welcome back. It's another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, or What to Watch in mini episodes or mega episodes. Sometimes they go long, sometimes they don't. With me, as always, is the Gamera to my Godzilla, Kyle Mulford, and I'm Noah Saturn. How you doing, Kyle?
I don't know. How does Gamera sound?
You're not too far off.
That's how I feel some days.
Mm-hmm.
But
you
it's
feel
all
like a giant turtle that shoots fire.
yes.
Fly.
Like you do. I wish I was a giant turtle who could shoot fire and fly.
Who doesn't?
No, I'm doing all right. This is day 7,562 of quarantine. So, the fact that this is still going is fun.
Mm-hmm.
But that just means more movies, and we haven't recorded what you watching in like 4 weeks, so I'm gonna have to speed through some of this because I watched a lot of stuff.
Okay, I watched 7 stuff, so it's very different.
Maybe we'll hear your 7 stuff first.
Okay, I guess since it's shorter. First things first, I watched The Return of Godzilla, aka Godzilla in 1984, aka Godzilla in 1985. This is the first of the Heisei era, the second series of Godzilla films. And Godzilla wakes up, attacks Japan, gets temporarily defeated. Basic thing. But it's fun because we have better creature effects now, a better suit with a more articulated face and stuff. So that's fun. I like that. And any thoughts on The Return of Godzilla? Have you seen it?
I couldn't tell you which ones I've seen. I watched a lot of Godzilla, like on late night TBS, TNT stuff when I was growing up, but I haven't seen a Godzilla movie in I don't know how long other than the newest US ones. So I do remember that I had a lot of fun watching them when I was a kid. So hopefully they hold up for you.
I mean, this is like, I'm buckling down through this series because this is like 16 out of like, there's like 30 of these movies. I've made it past the halfway point. I got to keep going now, but
I was gonna say you haven't given up yet, so
yeah,
it must be okay.
None of them are they're like 90 minutes or just a little more than that. So none of them are long, which is nice. So there's not like an Avengers Endgame. There's not a Godzilla Endgame. Or all the Godzillas come together to fight King Ghidorah or something.
It'll be like when all the the Spider-Mans and Into the Spider-Verse will have like the the original Godzilla and the 1998 Matthew Broderick Godzilla and the
that's referred to as Zilla, and it does show up, I think, at least in one movie.
Nice.
Anyway, so the second series, it's like the first one from 1954 and then jumped like 30 years later. So it kind of disregards everything after the first one and then kind of starts from there.
Oh, okay. So it actually is a sequel to the first one.
Yeah, I guess think of it as like the Star Trek Kelvin timeline or whatever.
Or like Halloween, where it's just like one and then this timeline, one and then this
like
timeline.
3 timelines or whatever.
But number one is always in the mix.
Yeah, because it's probably the best one.
Yep.
All right, so next up I saw Jennifer's Body, which was a lot of fun. I remember it was just poorly marketed when it came out, like 2009 or something. Finally watched it. It was a lot of fun, and it definitely feels like a hard R version of something like Mean Girls, some of that same sense of humor, while also being like, about killing boys and stuff.
I remember liking that one. I saw that one when it came out, and I don't think I've seen it since though. That I want to say that had Megan Fox, right?
It had Megan Fox.
Okay. So I can't say much on that movie, but I have seen it and I do remember liking it when it came out.
I'd say that one deserves a rewatch. It's pretty funny.
Oh, I'll put it on my list.
And like it's when you find out what actually happens to some of like the characters, it was like, oh wow, well this person is now completely justified on all their actions. Next up, I saw Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion. It's an Italian movie about a detective trying to prove like what's wrong with the justice system. So like he murders a guy and then he tries to leave. Then he gets put in charge of the own investigation. That he tries to lead them to himself. It's weird, but it's good.
That sounds really interesting.
It is really interesting.
It sounds like that sounds like nothing I've really seen before.
So yeah, that was on Criterion Channel, and I'm sure if you're lucky, you might be able to find it like a library or maybe on Canopy. They tend to have some on a crossover. I don't know where it's streaming right now. Return of Godzilla and Jennifer's Body I just got from DVD. So it's and next was The Big Country, which is an old-fashioned western with Gregory Peck.
Nice.
Where he plays like a ship captain who's coming to the west for his fiancée to out there and get married, and then he sort of gets embroiled in like this big family feud between like his fiancée's family, then another family nearby, and just lots of great scenery and westerns. Charlton Heston shows up in it too, so great music. I watched it on my phone. You should probably watch it on a bigger screen than that, but wonderful theme. I enjoyed it. And it even has Burl Ives, Sam the Snowman playing the bad guy. So that's pretty funny.
Nice.
Next up is Godzilla versus Biollante. I got this one from my public library, so that's cool. And Godzilla versus a giant plant monster. The giant plant monster is good because it may or may not contain the soul of like a scientist's like wife or something.
Interesting.
But this one, I like Biollante just as a creature design. It's like this weird plant thing. But what's fun about it is the fact that it was originally because the studio Toho had a contest to like make your own monster, and then we'll pick one to put in the movie.
Is it like Seymour? Or no, Seymour's the guy. Is it like Audrey too?
Kinda. There's definitely resemblance.
Feed me, Seymour. Feed me, Godzilla.
Exactly. And then I watched To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar.
I have that on my list. I have not seen that before.
I watched it on Netflix. It might still be on there. It might have left, but that one's great. It's a road trip movie about 3 drag queens, and they get stuck in a small town somewhere in like the Midwest on their way to Los Angeles. So while they're stuck there for a few days, they have to deal with kind of like, people not understanding them and trying to help improve this town in the best way in the most fabulous way that they can. And the drag queens are played by Patrick Swayze, Wesley Snipes, and John Leguizamo. And they are excellent in this film.
Okay, I couldn't remember John Leguizamo. I knew that Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze were in that. So yeah, yes. It's definitely on my to-watch list. So
yes.
That one sounds like a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, and they do a great job. So definitely, I want to see a sequel. Get John Leguizamo back and get Wesley Snipes back.
Oh, I'm so sad that Patrick Swayze can't come back.
Yes. And last on my list is, you guessed it, another Godzilla movie, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. So I've now made it I think maybe halfway through the second series. And this one, I had vague memories of this one in particular, still watching it in Sci-Fi Channel or something way back when. I saw pieces of it. And this one is cool because it has, I guess, the most complicated plot of the bunch. Where basically, Godzilla's doing his thing in the ocean. People are freaked out. Then, a UFO lands, and it's people from the future. And they're saying, all right, so, Godzilla's going to attack, and we got to help you guys prevent it. Because they figure out that Godzilla was originally this dinosaur that mutated, and they know it was on a specific island because, Japanese soldiers were protected by it in World War II. So they travel back in time to World War II, move Godzilla, but then they accidentally leave, these 3 cute little creatures, come back to the present, 1992. Then, oh no, whoops, we created King Ghidorah. Oh. So then the only way to stop King Ghidorah is to get Godzilla. So they find Godzilla, shoot him up with some nukes, get him going. Then they fight. Godzilla wins. Then, oh no, we have to deal with Godzilla. Let's make Mecha King Ghidorah. And then fight those. And and there's one guy who's pretty much the Terminator. So okay,
that does sound like a complicated plot for a Godzilla movie. That was one thing I always remember about Godzilla. It's Godzilla's fighting another monster. The end.
Yeah, I mean, this one, but it kind of goes for it, and it's kind of fun anyway. And I really enjoyed it because, everyone loves Godzilla, and maybe because I had vague memories of this one, and also seeing like King Ghidorah with like cool puppeteers and stuff was really fun. And
Nice.
just, I enjoyed the plot. And there's one point where you see like the UFO going to the island where like the Japanese soldiers are during World War II. And there's a really dumb moment where there's two Americans on a naval ship. It's like, what's that? Did aliens just go to the island? That's ridiculous. Should we report this? No, we shouldn't report this, but you can tell your son about it when he's born, Major Spielberg.
Nice.
It's like they took a chance and they went for it.
That one
All
sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, go through the highlights of yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, like everyone else, when Disney Plus dropped Hamilton, I watched it with my family. And I have to say that was my first time watching it. And this is the first time I heard any of the music because I don't like to listen to music unless I've seen the musical.
Makes sense.
But it was really good. And I have to say, though, my biggest complaint is the weak spot is Lin-Manuel Miranda. I think he wrote an excellent, he wrote excellent music. Like, I think he's a genius with the music, but everyone else around him was so stellar. And there's something about his voice that I just don't care to listen to. That was the only complaint I had about it. Cause I loved everyone else in it. I don't know if you've watched it yet.
I haven't seen it, but I've listened to the soundtrack several times. So I guess I'm used to his particular voice, so it sounds fine to me.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just me. There's just something about his singing that I think he's a really talented person, like super talented.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he was the weak link, and he had like 50% of the songs on the show.
Well, don't forget, more than so much, a lot of it was him rapping, which is, of course, something he's very good at.
Yeah. I do have to say, though, now after watching this, Blind Spotting is one of my favorite movies of the past, 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone should watch it. I've told everyone I could about that movie. But between that and then watching Daveed Diggs in Hamilton, that guy is amazing. That's all I got to say about that. That guy is the epitome of talent, and I want to see him in more things.
Agreed.
But I do highly recommend Hamilton, though. If you like musicals, it is a really cool show. So I finally sat down and watched Metropolis. I finally got to it, and it really holds up as a cool sci-fi movie.
Did you watch what's the more recent transfer, where it's like the quote unquote complete Metropolis, where they have a better print?
I think that's what I watched. Yeah, I watched it on Canopy. So.
Yeah, that's probably the one they would have versus like a public domain print.
Yeah. So, but no, that movie really holds up, and I feel like it holds up even in theme as well. So, yeah, I'd really recommend that one.
Eat the Rich, that whole thing.
I watched another movie on Canopy. It's an A24 movie from 2018 called In Fabric, and I really wanted to like this one. It was interesting because it's an A24 film and they always make interesting stuff, but it was one of their misses for me.
Yeah, A24 is one of those things, like, they seem like they have a very specific brand.
Yeah, I will watch everything.
Sometimes it doesn't. Like something like, did they like at least distribute something like Midsummer or whatever?
Yes, they did.
All right, see, that's the kind of film I have absolutely zero interest in, but then there's other stuff they put out which I find interesting.
I actually liked Midsummer a little bit. The thing about A24 is that even though they're just hit and miss back and forth, I will watch everything they put out because everything is at least interesting.
You're willing to give it a shot. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, but In Fabric, I will say though, if you're leery about some movies, it really felt like it was trying to be like an early Argento movie, and it just didn't work because it felt like one of those that was just weird for weird's sake, and that I didn't feel like there was any substance to it, and I didn't really connect with any characters. I didn't. It was just kind of forgettable. It was about a possessed dress.
Oh, I just assumed it was about like a hardcore sewing competition, which would be awesome.
I watched a 1988 movie, Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Rowdy Piper.
Yep. and he's like the last virile male, and so they go to like find some women that that he's responsible for impregnating them, so it's a bizarre movie, and like the town that they have to go to is Frogtown because there's frog people there.
Because post-apocalypse or whatever.
If you're into those weird 80s movies like I am, it was an interesting watch. So I'll just give it that. On Amazon Prime, the new Harry Potter film, Guns Akimbo. And I'm going to tell you, this was bloody, violent, and a lot of fun. I am going to put out a recommend for Guns Akimbo. If you're into those fast-paced, like really violent, kind of weird movies. I don't know if you're familiar with the plot of this.
Can you give me a basic summary in a couple sentences?
Yeah, he is a guy who like trolls people on the internet, and there's a whole big thing that have people like killing each other for bets. It's an underground betting thing, and so they're running all over the city killing each other. And he trolls that site, and they found his IP address, and then they come to his apartment, nail guns to his hand, and say, okay, now you've got to kill this other girl who has not been defeated yet. And it's play, and I didn't even recognize her until the end credits roll. I didn't know it was her. It was Samara Weaving.
Nice.
And I really recommend this. I had a lot of fun watching Guns Akimbo. Let's see. We'll skip a couple of those.
Yeah, what I like about Daniel Radcliffe post Harry Potter is that he's allowed to he doesn't need to work for the rest of his life, but he just picks the projects he wants to do. A lot of times they're really weird, something like Swiss Army Man, which is just a bizarre movie, but you can tell he was having a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of his movies, and he has a lot of interesting projects. Guns Akimbo was fun. I've watched Swiss Army Man. Imperium was actually a pretty good one. And then there's that one about the authors. I think he played Ginsberg in it. Kill Your Darlings was an interesting movie. He plays a lot of he picks a lot of interesting roles. So, like you said, he doesn't have to go for big blockbusters anymore because he can do whatever he wants now. And I like the choices he makes. So,
yeah, I'm kind of hoping to see more of that from people like Chris Evans, who now that he's kind of finally done with Captain America and stuff, that he can pick more interesting projects or stuff that interests him.
Yeah, that would be good. I like him too. He was actually in a movie called Gifted, I think it was called, which was a nice little independent movie where he played the dad of a little girl played by McKenna Grace, I believe. Who was just very smart, and he was a single dad trying to raise her, and it was a cute little movie.
Aww.
Yeah, so he's had a couple movies like that too. So Chris Evans has. I watched a movie called Loose Shoes from 1978 on Amazon Prime, and I'm only mentioning this because it was this really weird. It was almost like a whole movie of really bad SNL sketches, and and most of them were like they were all like kind of trailers for fake movies and stuff like that. So
that could be fun.
But then there was actually one skit or whatever you want to call him with a young Bill Murray in it. I was like, what is this? And it just was like, there were no good skits in it. So if you ever see like this whole skit movie and you think, oh, a comedy skit movie and Bill Murray's in one of the skits, it's called Loose Shoes, do not waste your time. Pass right over it on Amazon Prime.
You think it might have been sort of like been done during like, I don't know, when he was part of like Second City or something in Chicago?
Maybe, because I don't know when he was in that and when he came to, because he wasn't.
Because he jumped to SNL in like 76.
Yeah, this came out in 78, so.
Yeah, so that's what I mean when he was on SNL.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was weird. I had never heard of it before. I was like, I'll check it out. But going on to a movie I'd highly recommend on Hulu is actually a 2020 release called Palm Springs with Andy Samberg.
I've heard about that one.
And I was a little skeptical because a lot of people love Hot Rod, and I watched it. I'm like, oh, this is just stupid humor. It's just I I didn't really get into Hot Rod, but then so I was like, I'll go. People
I
are like,
liked him in Pop Star Never Stop, Never Stopping.
okay, that's true though. I should have thought of that because that one was actually really funny.
Especially the B scene.
Yeah, but this one was kind of a Groundhog Day ish movie, but he kind of pulls another girl into his Groundhog Day, so they're both having it together. So like, then there's this relationship back and forth, and I don't even want to say too much about this movie because the only thing I knew about it was that it was a repeating day movie, kind of like Groundhog Day. I knew nothing else about it going in. And I want to tell you, there was a couple parts in the beginning that I just cracked up because I was like, what am I watching? And it was bizarre, but there was also like a lot of heart to it with the whole relationship thing. And it was kind of touching, but also bizarre and funny. And I really enjoyed Palm Springs. So,
Nice.
and that's streaming on Hulu. So
You know what the worst part about being stuck in a time loop is?
what's that?
You know what the worst part about being stuck in a time loop is?
Oh, I walked right into it.
Oh, yes, you did.
I watched one that I've seen a couple of times from 1989, the Christian Slater classic, Gleaming the Cube.
I thought you were going to say Heathers, but okay.
No, this is Christian Slater plays a punk skateboarder kid, and his adopted brother, who's from Korea, Vietnam maybe. He gets mixed up in something from the job that he has, and he ends up killed. And so Christian Slater, the punk rock skateboarder, has to figure out what happened to his brother. I love it. It's a fun. If anybody who listens to this hasn't figured it out, I love the 80s. I love 80s movies. And speaking of that, I watched 1980s Battle Beyond the Stars. And this one is relevant because a couple of days after I watched it, the leader of the bad guys in the movie passed away in real life, John Saxon.
Yeah, he was one of those character actors who was everywhere.
Yeah, and being a really big fan of genre movies from the 80s, he was a big part of my childhood. So I was kind of sad to hear that, especially after I just watched him in Battle Beyond the Stars just a couple days earlier. I was like, oh, man.
I liked him in when he was Nancy's dad in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, and he was in like number 1, number 3, and then New Nightmare.
Something like that, yeah.
So he was in all the best ones.
That's true.
No, Battle Beyond the Stars is basically a Roger Corman Seven Samurai in space. So
nice.
There's a planet full of, just peaceful people that's getting attacked by John Saxon, and so one of their guys goes out in a spaceship and gathers up a bunch of bounty hunters to help them defend their planet. So
do they have laser swords?
No, there are no laser swords, but
okay. Can they like use like certain powers or things?
Yeah, there are
to move things.
There are different kinds of alien creatures and stuff like that. And George Peppard, is that his name? George Peppard. He plays a cowboy from Earth.
Nice.
No, it's a fun movie, and I recommend that one. And that one is an interesting one because it's a Corman production from 1980, and you've got a lot of things. James Horner did the score.
Nice.
And I've listened to other podcasts that have talked about this, and apparently he stole his own score from this for Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. And then apparently James Horner is like known for stealing his own stuff and reusing it.
Nice.
And then apparently also because of the rights stuff, I think Roger Corman used some of the score of this for other movies and other trailers and stuff. So
I mean, if you already did the work really well, you might as well use it more than once, right?
Yeah. And then also another person to come out of this, someone who worked on the set, was a young James Cameron. So
there's the connection. Yep. James Cameron and James Horner, work together.
So that's a fun little space movie with Seven Samurai in space. I watched on Peacock. I downloaded the Peacock app because it's free, and and
Now,
I watched The Mummy and from 1999.
I was
And
gonna say which version of the Mummy.
the fun
The Dark
1999
Universe.
version.
Everyone loves the Dark Universe, right?
Yes, yeah, the dark version. No, I was so sorely disappointed. I wanted to like that a lot because I like Sophia Boutella too,
Yeah.
and I think she was cool as the Mummy. But like that movie was just a drag. But the Brendan Fraser one from 1999, do the effects hold up? Not necessarily, but that movie is still a lot of fun, and Brendan Fraser is just so great as like the big square jawed hero of the film. I like him in that movie. It holds up as a fun movie. It's the effects that don't hold up real well. So that's streaming on Peacock.
But I do think they were still groundbreaking for the time and still deserves respect for that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like just the cool effect with like where like the mummy like turns around and like a scarab beetle comes out of his mouth or something.
Yeah, but also if you watch it though, and you think about the fact that The Matrix came out the same year, you go, "Oh my god!" Like the Matrix effects were like light years beyond this same movie that came out the same year. There are some effects in it that like it just looks like an old computer, like maybe like a early 80s computer generated video game or something. It just didn't look great in some spots, but I do agree that some of the stuff was quite interesting for the time.
Yeah, and remember, one was the mummy, one was made by the Wachowskis.
Yeah, that's true. It was Steven Summers versus the Wachowskis.
Yeah, you'll take the Wachowskis when it comes to spectacle.
On Pluto TV, I watched for the first time. I watched Ordinary People, directed by Robert Redford. It ran a little slow, but I thought it was very interesting. It was just kind of a who played the dad? It was Donald Sutherland playing the dad, and Mary Tyler Moore is the mom.
And Kiefer Sutherland?
No, actually, Timothy Hutton was the son.
Nice.
And they're all it's basically a family, parents and a son dealing with the death of another son. And they were both older, and there was a boating accident, and it was just the dynamic of how they dealt with it. And
Was it an accident or was it murder?
I'll never tell. It's kind of
little on the case.
It was kind of a slow rolling movie because it was directed by Robert Redford. I've noticed that I like Robert Redford acted movies, but sometimes his directing is a little slower paced. But this was a really good character study on like the different ways people would deal with the death of a family member. And it really, as a father, it really got me thinking like in a scary way, like, oh, how would I handle that if that happened? I don't know how I would react if I ever lost a kid like that.
You get revenge against the boat.
Yeah, I burn that freaking boat and bury it at sea. Ah, damn it, it floats. But I actually would recommend this though. It was a very good character drama. I watched The Final Countdown on Amazon Prime. It's the final count with Martin Sheen and Kirk Douglas. And I didn't know what to expect from this one. I've always remembered the cover of it with the giant words saying Final Countdown kind of in a triangle. And then there's a battleship coming out of the picture. And it was basically a ship that a civilian, Martin Sheen, goes onto, and Kirk Douglas is the captain of the ship. And they run into this big electrical storm out in the sea, and it takes them back to December 6th, 1941, the day before the attack on Pearl Harbor. And it was kind of an interesting little they dealt a lot with time travel and how, hey, we went back, but the fact that history was the way history was means that we didn't actually do anything here. So like we're not like they actually dealt with that whole paradox. So that's kind of an interesting movie. I kind of liked it. And that's on Amazon Prime. I watched The Ventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension for about the 100th time. I think I watched
that.
it's on Prime. Everybody go watch it. It's fantastic.
Don't go watch it.
You do not like it?
I guess maybe it's one of those things like I saw it as an adult, so that might change my perception of it.
Oh yeah, it might. I mean, Peter Weller, Clancy Brown, Jeff Goldblum, just John Lithgow being crazy. Laugh while you can, monkey boy. I love that movie. So much fun. And then I'll end with a kind of a double feature I had, like a 2-night double feature. For the first time, I watched Brian De Palma's Dressed to Kill. And I don't know if you've seen this one.
Is it about a possessed dress that kills people?
No, that was In Fabric.
Right.
Call back. No, this one was actually a cool thriller. The only problem with it is it's one of those where the portrayal of a transgender person did not age well.
Oh no!
Oh
no!
It very much did not age well. It was basically their thing is that it's a man, and I don't want to give too much away, but like on who it is in the movie. But Michael Caine is in the movie, and it had some twists and stuff that I thought were pretty cool, and it really worked as a thriller if you can get past the portrayal of the fact that there's this man and he wants to be a woman, but like the woman and the man are two personalities instead of just the person. And so every time the man gets aroused, the woman comes out in him and kills the woman because she doesn't like that he's aroused by other women.
Aye.
So I was like, oh, that's how you're portraying transgender. That's your image of what transgender means. Okay,
I don't know if that's. I guess on the spectrum of bad, I'm not sure how that compares to something like Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs, who's explicitly not a trans character, but unfortunately was sort of roped into that and it was stereotyped and became sort of a negative influence on trans people, even at the time and even to now, it still can be referred to as a referred point.
And of course, it's the fact that they're crazy, so they're killers. You know,
of course,
they're transgender because they're crazy. But the double, like I said, you have to get past that, and it's actually a cool thriller. But I called it a double feature because the next night I actually watched on Netflix the 2015 documentary De Palma. I think it was directed by Noah Baumbach, but it was basically just Brian De Palma sitting in a chair talking about his entire career.
That's fun.
So you got a lot of interesting stories behind the scenes of different things. Like there was some cool stories like when he talked about casualties of war. Apparently, like Michael J. Fox felt like he was an outsider in there, and Sean Penn actually acted like the jerk that he was in the movie, and like he actually wouldn't talk to Michael J. Fox on set, and like there's a scene where Michael J. Fox like confronts him in a tent, and him and some other guys, and apparently Sean Penn said something, and it actually got Michael J. Fox riled up, and De Palma's going, they really didn't like each other, but it worked for the movie. And I guess there's one scene where he walks past him in the movie and he whispers in Michael J. Fox's ears, and De Palma said that one of the takes, he walked by and whispered in Michael J. Fox's ear, "TV actor." so I like
call him Teen Wolf. I don't know.
Yeah, so just interesting stories like that, and like how he, like, you know, he was part of the crew that hung out in like the 60s, 70s, 80s. Robert De Niro's first movie was a early De Palma film that I'd never even heard of, and he hung out with the likes of George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Martin
Scorsese, Coppola, yeah.
And like you know, he even had a picture of them all hanging out together at a restaurant or something like that. And the only thing that about it was like him talking, he's very arrogant and full of himself, like talking about like the way he wanted to do things in his movies. And if someone else wanted to do something else, he's like, no, that's stupid. I'm right. You're wrong. Like, and it's like, oh, you did that and it didn't work, so let me do this way, and this is and yeah, did he have a lot of good ideas and a lot of interesting movies? Yes, but I like a lot of his movies. Like I said, I liked Dress to Kill, but like it was just a fun thriller. I don't think he was the caliber of some of those other people he hung out with, though.
Yeah,
but
he's not still around and still active, I guess.
yeah, and the thing is that the other thing is that people always compare him like he's like the bargain basement Hitchcock. Like, not bargain basement Hitchcock, but like not as good as Hitchcock, but he's Hitchcockian with his films. And he was even saying that like he would admit to all the things that he took from this Hitchcock movie, that Hitchcock movie, and all this stuff. And so like he admits that he took a lot, took a lot of ideas from that. But the other thing that he took with it is just the way he talked about women. He's kind of sleazy about women, it seemed, in this documentary.
Does that surprise me? Probably not.
No, considering he tried to like get it just seems like there was at least one naked woman in every one of his movies, like in the early days. Just like, and the way he talked about it was just like, yeah, I like looking at them and like this and this and this. It's just like he just seemed so sleazy about women. I'm just like, oh god, you kind of give me the creepy vibes when you talk about women.
Oh boy.
But he's an interesting fellow, and I actually recommend the documentary because, like I said, it's him telling his whole career, so it's straight from his mouth, all these behind the scenes things, and how he did this and how he got the money for these and how he ended up working with these people, and like Bernard Herrmann, who he calls Benny, and John Williams. Oh, I love the score that Johnny did for this one. But yeah, so interesting movie, and he's an interesting person. So, but yeah, those are every movie that I just said is all on streaming. So, and there was a lot of stuff in there that I do recommend. So there's stuff out there to watch. But I think we've gone kind of long with this one because we haven't recorded in a while. So that's what I kind of watched, the highlights of what I've watched for the last several weeks.
Yeah, the only real De Palma movie I think I've ever seen all of was like Mission Impossible.
And I actually that one is one that I really like. I like the first one. Mm-hmm. I think I like it more than most people. Everyone else likes the later ones a little better. I love 4, 5, and 6, but I also really love the first Mission Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Carrie.
I forgot who did Carrie. I've seen that one.
So, and there's a few others that watching the movie, I was like, oh yeah, he made that movie. Oh, and he made that movie. So yeah, he did have a good career of.
I've heard Blowout is pretty good. I want to see that one.
That's the other one. That was another one that I watched for the first time a few months ago, and I really liked that one. So that one had the ending is just kind of crazy, and and that's one you don't want to spoil the ending, but that's a really good movie.
Nice.
So, but anyway,
so what are you gonna watch next?
Well, let's see what's on the agenda here.
I think for me, since I'll go first, since you're looking at stuff, I guess I will just. I realize that I still have a bunch of Criterion Blu-rays that I own that are still in shrink, so I should probably watch those.
For sure. You got any in particular that you want to watch?
I'm gonna try and start with Stalker, which is by like Tarkovsky, that one Russian guy, Soviet
Russian
cinema guy that you've ever heard of, and it's basically, it's supposed to be super like weird and influential and a lot of fun. So that one always interested me. I'll watch that one and then try and kind of get through some of the other ones I have in my collection.
The next one I have on my real good list that's actually on one of my streaming services is I have such a long list. Sometimes I don't even remember like why I put certain movies on. So like,
me too.
So like the next one I have on there is a 1971 independent drama called Wake in Fright. So we'll see what that one's all about.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. So interesting stuff. So we'll see. I'm sure I'll have 100 more movies to talk about since still hunkering down at home with the COVID, with the corona, the corona out there.
Stop.
But anyway, where can you find us online?
You can find me on Twitter at Noah_Saturn. That's spelled SATERN.
I am at AwesomeKM, and you can find us on Instagram at We Don't Know What to Watch. And yes, I have not updated Instagram in a long time, so again, I'm back to that point where I'm like, I got to go on there and post stuff again.
I mean, my Twitter, I took a break from Twitter, but then like it's since I haven't logged on to it really since like COVID started. It's like, and I'm just like, it's kind of nice not being on Twitter.
Yeah, I check my Twitter a lot, but I haven't really posted anything for a couple months myself because like I just sit there and like Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff is just like, oh, it's all like political and Corona and blah blah blah. And it's just like I don't even want to
overwhelming and just like stop.
And then once I read all that stuff, I'm like, I don't even want to post anything right now. But anyway, you can still find us on those, and I'll try and get a little more active again. But until next time, keep on watching.
Keep on watching. Bye bye.